Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life After Death and Beyond. Hello, Kelly White.
Hi, James. Great
How
to
are you,
see
Kelly?
you. Oh my gosh, I'm excited about our guest, and I'm excited because I got to spend the last few days with you.
We had a great time. Hopefully, you can see me okay. I use my iPhone because everything else is not connected yet.
It looks like lots of light is pouring into you.
It's a lot, though. It's a lot of light pouring into me. So if you see this, so I obviously need a new phone. So yeah, we had a great weekend, Kelly. I want to thank, first of all, thank everybody for coming to the show on Friday and for meeting us. It was really, really wonderful to have everybody there. So thank you, everyone who's watching this and listening as well.
Thank you. It really meant a lot to both of us to meet everybody in person. It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Now tell us about tonight's guest, Kelly, won't you?
Oh my gosh, we have such. First of all, I can't remember who it was that asked me. I had a few people say you've got to have this guest on, and I'm so excited and thrilled that we have her. So our guest, her name is Sarah Breskman Cosme, and Sarah Breskman Cosme is the best-selling author of A Hypnotist's Journey to Atlantis, A Hypnotist's Journey to the Secrets of the Sphinx, and A Hypnotist's Journey from the Trail to the Star People, all of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, really.
Covers them all. So Sarah is a master hypnotist. She's a level 3 practitioner of Dolores Cannon's QHHT and a student of Dr. Brian Weiss.
Oh, okay.
So with a passion to reveal hidden or undiscovered knowledge that is vital to the enlightenment of humanity, Sarah won the 2023 Dolores Cannon Award for her research, and she continues to speak about her work worldwide. Her work has been featured internationally on programs such as Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, Coast to Coast AM, and Gaia TV. Sarah has earned her bachelor's in psychology at Northeastern University in Boston. After graduation, she worked as a counselor in a halfway house for the mentally ill. She said, I saw firsthand how the conventional treatment for the mentally ill with medication and talk therapy was not always effective. James, haven't we always said that?
Yes.
I wish that there was something more, she said, that she could offer her clients. As a result, she pursued hypnotherapy, which uses the subconscious mind to change limiting beliefs and unwanted behavior. Sarah then became a master hypnotist in 2009, after which she trained with Dr. Brian Weiss to be a certified past life regressionist. And from there, Sarah went on to train with Dolores Cannon's daughter, Julia Cannon, learning her specialized method called Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, QHHT. After many years of dedication and receiving the coveted level 3 practitioner, Sarah now assists in teaching with Dolores Cannon's daughter, Julia, all over the world. She's assisted in Egypt, Mount Shasta, Peru, and Miami. She's been practicing hypnosis and the healing arts for over 12 years. So please welcome Sarah Breskman Cosme.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
welcome, Sarah.
Sarah.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Thanks
Sarah.
so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Wow, what a background.
Yes.
What got you started in this? First of all, how did you get started would be the first question, I guess. Did you get in the field?
Well, first of all, it was so amazing the way you read that, Kelly.
She's an expert.
I'm excited to have you on. Really am. I know all of our guests are too.
Well, the way I got into this it felt like by accident, because I was one of those kids that everyone felt sorry for. I mean, I had so many problems as a kid. I mean, I was overweight, I had phobias and fears, and I had OCD that was so bad that sometimes it would take me like a half an hour to an hour to leave the house because I would flick on and off light switches. And then I had sleep issues, and I had so many problems that sometimes when people talk about their problems, I think, oh yeah, I had that one. That one was bad, you know? So I had so many problems that my parents put me in therapy. And that's how I got into learning about therapeutic techniques. And that's why I wanted to become a therapist. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a psychologist. That was my, one of my dreams for what I wanted to do, because I wanted to help people and I didn't have a background in other modalities. So I went to college to become a psychologist, but that's when my whole life changed. because after about 2.5 months of going to college, I went back home to my family's house, and there's a mirror that you can see when you walk through the door. And I took one look at myself and my jaw dropped, because I had only been away at college for 2.5 months, but everything was different when I looked at myself in the mirror. So I realized, oh my gosh, not only did I lose about 20 pounds in 2.5 months,
Wow.
but I hadn't changed my eating habits. I was eating the same way. I hadn't, really changed anything. But as I was looking at myself, I realized, oh my gosh, everything about my life is different. And I noticed that what happened to me was that I had changed my environment. And so that caused me to change my thoughts. And I had literally changed my life because of that. And then I realized, oh my gosh, is everything based off of thought patterns? And I thought, oh my gosh, if I could really help myself this much just by changing my thought patterns, then I bet everybody could really be helped by this. But who was I going to talk to? So I just continued on, and I graduated from college. And then before going to graduate school to become a psychologist, I did an internship where my job was to counsel people. And I felt like within about a week of being there, I felt as if everything I had learned was a lie, because no one seemed to get better. In fact, it was the opposite. People were getting worse. And I noticed that the protocol that we had to give people was it seemed like it just was so unsuccessful. I mean, I saw some suicides, and no one left, no one left from it. But that's what made me decide that I needed to find something else. So that's when I decided to pursue hypnotherapy.
Did you pursue regular hypnotherapy, or did you go right into past life?
So I wanted to become a master hypnotist. And the reason I wanted to become a master hypnotist was because when I was in college, I learned in one class about hypnosis and about getting to the very root cause of a person's problems in their childhood. So I wanted to learn how to get to the root cause of someone's problems, but in their childhood, because I thought in that way they could really heal themselves. And I felt like all the medications that I had learned about and the leading edge of thought for these people that I had learned and discovered in working on the field just wasn't working. So in order to become a master hypnotist, I had to learn lose weight, quit smoking, and past life regressions. That's what you had to learn in 2009 because it was so popular. People were asking for past life regressions. So I had to do a lot of practice hours, and I really wasn't into doing past life regressions because I didn't really believe in it. And I thought maybe it was a nice story, but I really just wanted to help people get to the root cause of their trauma and do regular hypnosis because I was very scientifically minded. I wasn't into any woo-woo stuff. But as I'm practicing, it was obvious to me right away that there was something about the past life regressions that were working because people could come in for just one session and they would heal themselves. And I thought, wow, this is really amazing. And I want to do something that works. So that's when I studied with Dr. Brian Weiss, and I did his method for a while, and I love him. He's so sweet. He's just, I'm sure you probably know him, James.
I've worked with Brian for many, many years, sure.
He's just like the nicest person, and he taught me so many things, and I just felt like my world started to change, and I started to see things from a different perspective, and it was so exciting to learn about spirituality.
And Sarah, quick question. You took, let's say you studied with Brian Weiss, you studied with other people. Did you then take what you've learned and kind of mold it into your own style?
Yeah, I do, because I think everything evolves, and I think any practitioner that does anything knows where things could be amended. And so I have my own style, and I lead workshops with my own style of this method, and I take people to the very root cause of their trauma. I really enjoy doing it.
And you know what, also, Sarah, you bring in your specialties when you do it your way. It's like everybody, I say, as far as mediumship, study as many mediums as you can and take what resonates within you and use it for you, because everyone's so different. So other people's, your strong points might not be someone else's strong points, and it's a different perspective. And what really works is your unique approach, I think. And I think that's great that you did that. I think it's great. So many people follow and you lead. So that's really incredible.
I was just talking to someone about that.
I know, I'm psychic now.
I know.
But it's really true. When you take your own way of doing it, it really will. And that'll reach those people who understand your method, your ways of doing it. It speaks to different people. So I think it's great. Anyone that, creates their own trail, if you will, I give my hat off to, because it's a hard thing to do, especially in this field. People tend to want to follow instead of lead. And I think it takes a lot of courage to do it your own way and to help people in that way. So hats off to you, darling.
Thank you. Well, it's funny you say that, because my job is to take people to the deepest level of trance and access their higher consciousness. And basically, you can go deep within anyone and reach the same place. You reach source. And you reach like a higher level of consciousness. So I asked one time, what do you guys talk about? Because when the soul leaves the body, it usually calls itself a we. So I said, what do you guys talk about? And they said, we sometimes are concerned that human beings think they're supposed to be like other people when they came in to be an individual. And we wish they would get it. And we wish they would understand why they're here. Yeah, but I do want to say that as I was getting into spirituality, I took this amazing course that really helped me. And it was your course.
Was it really?
It was psychic development. This is a really
development course. Wow. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
You can look up on the register. I'm in there.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you. And did that help you? I guess it helped you.
It did. Because it was
that's what I was saying earlier, in that, like, my courses I have are unique. It's my way of doing it. And it's a different way, a different angle. And that spoke to you, and it helped you to, that worked for you because you connected on that level. And they're same with your work. Then people will connect on a different level. Thank you very much. I'm really honored and happy that I was able to help you.
Yeah. I love the way you teach, though, because you made it very user friendly. It seemed like it was obtainable.
Yeah, well, it should be, right? It really should be. Yeah. I think everything in life, including past life regressions or trance work, it should be accessible to everybody. I think it shouldn't be something so out there and complex that we can't get it. We're all the same, and we need to just, The biggest thing I find, and I don't know, Sarah, have you found? I know, Kelly, you do, for people to get out of their way. Do you find that in your work as well? For them to get out of their heads or out of their way and just go into that surrender or get to that heart space? Do you find that as well?
All the time, because hypnosis doesn't really feel like anything. So it's that same state when you wake up in the morning and you have access to your dream. And in that state, it can feel like you're very much awake, but you actually have access to so many different things. And if you could imagine having a guide sitting right next to you, helping you delve into these different places, you could find out anything. But since it feels like you're totally awake, it can get confusing. And it is simply getting out of your way, just taking the filter off, allowing this amazing information to come to you and to not judge it.
Get out of the human way of thinking of things. And a quick question here. How do you deal with people that are control freaks? that they want to be in control. How do you have any techniques or ways you work with those types of people who they can't go under, they can't get down because they're afraid, or they're going to be possessed? Or do you have that as well?
I do. I have a lot of different tricks that I've come up with over the years. There's, different ones that I'll use for different people. But in general, if they want to be in control of the whole thing, I'll allow their conscious mind to feel like it's in control. And then I'll access the subconscious, sort of like through the back door. Like it's not tricky, but it sort of is.
It's smart, honey. It's very smart, really smart. Kelly, you do that sometimes.
Yeah, right? I have. Oh yeah, I think it's amazing. I'm curious, how did you get from doing past life regression to Atlantis?
Oh
because
my gosh.
She really specializes in Atlantean history.
Yeah. It just feels, I know it's not by accident. I know it's all meant to be, but I never sought out to do any of this stuff. Actually, a psychic really changed my life. It's like, I love, like, it's just amazing sometimes what happens when you get a psychic reading. But I was doing Brian Weiss's method for many years and I loved it, but I felt like something was missing. And this psychic, I contacted this psychic, and her name is Emmanuel McIntosh. And she said, oh, it's so obvious that you're missing something, because you're supposed to do Dolores Cannon's method, and you'll be teaching it, and you'll be speaking about it, and you'll be writing books that'll be very successful and speaking about that all over the world. And I thought, wow, this psychic reading is terrible. You know, she has me confused with someone else. I would never speak about things. I would never write a book, let alone teach something. There's no way. And so I just disregarded it. And then months later, I looked at Dolores Cannon kept popping up on my feed, and I looked into it. And sure enough, just like the psychic said, it was amazing. I mean, I did her method, and it felt like everything clicked in me. And then I worked my way up from the bottom level to teach it, I was assisting in the classes and teaching all over the world. I mean, it almost felt like I wasn't even trying. I never felt like there was a lot of effort involved. The way I got into the Atlantis books felt totally by accident too. I was never into Atlantis, or I didn't want, I didn't feel like I was an expert in that at all. But I was really good friends with this woman named Jen, who lived pretty close to me in the same town. And in order to get my level 3 practitioner, which meant the highest level of Dolores Cannon's method, I needed to regress someone and videotape them and take that video submission to the class. And all of a sudden, this class was going to be in Florida. So it was like, oh my gosh, I better find someone quickly. So I asked my friend Jen, who I'd been friends with for over 10 years. And I instantly regretted it, because I knew she wasn't into any of this stuff. She wasn't a spiritual person whatsoever. And I asked her if she would be my volunteer. And I regretted it, because I thought, why couldn't I ask one of my open friends, my spiritual friends? Anytime I tried to bring up any spirituality at all with her, she just wasn't into it. So once I asked her and I told her what I was doing, and I said, well, you can find out anything, and you can even find out about past lives if you believe in them, but you can even heal yourself if you have any physical issues. And she just looked at me and she said, wait, that's what you do? Because I didn't really realize that's what you did, because I'm suffering from this brain condition called pseudotumor cerebri. And basically what this was this flooding of spinal fluid in her brain. And it was wreaking havoc on her body. It was causing her to lose vision out of her left eye. And her doctor said there was a big risk of a stroke. So she was desperate. She was only 32.
Wow.
And she had young children. So she said, I'll be your volunteer. I'll try anything. I'll do whatever. So I regressed my friend, who didn't believe in any of this stuff. I mean, I knew that she didn't believe it, because I would try to bring up spiritual things and she wasn't into it. I mean, she didn't believe in anything. She wasn't sure she believed in past lives. So I brought my friend, who didn't believe in anything, under hypnosis. And all of a sudden, she's remembering this past life in the 1970s, where her name was Christy. And she's remembering that she was trying to share this information about these 2 ancient civilizations, and that she was trying to share a lot of information that she had received from a different hypnotist. And as she was trying to share this in the 1970s, she was called crazy, put in a mental institution, and eventually lobotomized.
Oh, wow.
So she realized this was the next life where she wanted to do this again. So she all of a sudden goes to this ancient lifetime where she's remembering growing up in this ancient civilization that's so beautiful. I mean, everyone was so compassionate, and it was women run. The women were the leaders of this ancient society, because the women could pass through their subconscious information down to their daughters, and they never had to teach their daughters. And the description and detail that Jen could remember of this ancient civilization was astounding. I mean, she could remember like the sounds of the birds. She could remember every single thing she ate. She just could remember what her room looked like, the touch of the stones, because they were like cold, and the fact that you kind of ducked underneath in order to get into the buildings, and it kept the whole building cool. She could remember the breeze of the ocean. And then she remembered that in this lifetime that she's recounting, that there were these visitors that started showing up. And these were humans, but they visited them, her civilization, in these travel-like spheres. And the travel spheres were made of like some sort of stealth technology. But when they landed, people got out, and they had these really high-tech suits on. The ships were using like a propulsion mechanism where it would suck up the energy from all around, and it would be able to propel the ship. Wow. She realized that these visitors wanted something from her society. And she also realized that when they couldn't get what they wanted, they took her and made her watch as they destroyed that entire civilization. So this is our first session as she's recounting this. They then took her as a prisoner, and she spent about 60 years as a prisoner in this highly advanced place. Now, we came to understand later that these two places were Lemuria and Atlantis, but neither one of us knew what we were looking into. Neither one of us had any idea of what was happening at that time she was recounting this. So at the end of that lifetime that she's recounting under hypnosis, I asked her higher self, which is what you do in these type of sessions. I asked her higher self, why did you show her that lifetime of all lifetimes? And her higher self said, well, we showed you this lifetime because the two of you had decided before coming into this life to uncover and share this information, that the world was waiting, and it had been waiting for thousands and thousands of years, because the consciousness hadn't reached the point where it was time to share yet. She had tried in the 1970s and it was too early. So this is the time when we had both agreed to uncover this and share it. And the higher self said, this is so important to uncover and share because people will heal from this information. And then I asked, well, okay, what is the very root cause of her brain condition? And her higher self said the root cause was the catalyst for her to come see me, that if she didn't have a catalyst or like a motivator, she would have never had the session. Wow. And it's so true. She wouldn't have, because she wasn't into this stuff. So then I asked her higher self, well, now that she came and we'll get together and we'll uncover this important information, can you release the brain condition? Can you heal it now? And her higher self said yes. And then all of a sudden, my friend could feel it draining, like behind her left eye, and it just started draining out. So I wake her up out of the session, and she can see out of her left eye for the first time in a long time. She was working really closely with a team of specialists at the University of Miami, and they couldn't believe her next scan. Like, she was healed. They were astounded. So we thought, okay, well then we should the two of us should probably get together and work on this. You know, what is it that we need to uncover that's so powerful that can heal people? And I thought that she would go back to those ancient civilizations. You know, I thought she would start from the beginning. It's usually what happens and when you're going back to a lifetime.
Yeah.
So I asked her higher self, okay, take us to the beginning of this story that's so important that you want to share, that you want us to share with the world. And like I said, I thought they would take us back to that civilization of Lemuria or Atlantis. But no, they decided to take my friend to another past life memory of being an extraterrestrial. Now, my friend did not believe. She did not believe in them at all. I asked her a couple times, do you believe in extraterrestrials? And she said no. So all of a sudden, my friend of 10 years is recounting under hypnosis memories in so much detail of being what you would consider an extraterrestrial, because it wasn't on the Earth realm, apparently. So she's remembering coming to Earth, or this planetary sphere, for the first time, and how they were running out of these resources, and how Earth was full of these resources. So they wanted to seed this population. There were many reasons why they decided to come to this planetary sphere. It was really fascinating. One thing that they were running out of was there seemed to be this mineral or crystal that they would use to create almost like another reality. So they would use their mind and a type of mineral, and they would create another reality that they all had to go into. But once you went into it, it would shock you into enlightenment. You would understand like the truth about the universe, and everyone had to go in. So everyone had to go in, and she recounted that she was from one of the Pleiadian star systems. There's a lot, but one of the Pleiadian star systems. And everyone would go in, and when you would go into this realm, then you never felt the need to compete. You would understand right away that you were everyone else you saw. You would have this different feeling of compassion, not only for yourself first, but for everyone else. So everyone had to go. And so, of course, I had her remember what it was like to go through this vortex, or this realm that they would create. So she said, right when you get into the vortex, it's almost like your whole body leaves and you feel that oneness. And then you realize that the truth about the universe from that perspective is that it's always flowing in a figure 8 pattern, and that there's no real end and no beginning, that everyone is the universe, and that you realize that this is an experiment, that every single part of what we're doing is like a game. That's what they see. And this game has been going on for longer than you could possibly comprehend. I'm sorry about my talk. Going on longer.
They're validating you.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Going on longer than anyone could comprehend. But we're all part of this group. We're all part of this ancient group that's been experiencing all these different realms. It's so fascinating. So
Sarah,
anyway,
can I just interrupt you a second and ask you, just because I'm just fascinated. This comes up quite a lot. The extraterrestrials, did you bring through from someone? Did she bring through, or another client, different extraterrestrials? Did they appear differently from different star systems? Have you had that experience yet?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But what I think, and I would be really curious what you guys think. I found that they're us, like they're just another, almost like not another timeline, but since everything's happening in the now, a lot of times I've noticed that when an extraterrestrial is visiting, it's actually just another version of yourself, usually.
Another layer.
Yeah, because there's so many layers, and it's all in this now moment. And a lot of my clients that are really afraid of like extraterrestrials, or they've had like abduction memories, when they're under hypnosis, and it's so really fascinating, but most of the time they realize that it's them taking them, which is really quite interesting, or almost like family in a sense, most of the time. Well, actually, I mean, this is totally off topic of Atlantis, but I actually had a lot of women that were postmenopausal that came in for their session because they felt pregnant. And what I found so fascinating, I had like 4 of these women, back to back, from it started in like, I think it was August of 22 or something like that. But what they were actually pregnant with, the higher self said, was they're pregnant with genetic material and energy in their creative force in their womb that would be seeding another realm. So there's like another realm that we're actually creating like now. There's always, every realm or sphere has to have a backup. So there's a backup realm, sphere, planet, whatever you want to call that.
Why would that be the case?
Because in other past experiences, sometimes we've lost the planet too quickly. So this has happened like many, many times. And it's really interesting because it seems like Earth is, whatever you want to call this, is like in a line of other Earths. So it goes through this cycle, this period where it becomes more of like a light body, just like what we're doing, you know? So we're like moving up, but other Earths have already done it. And we're just like a rung in a ladder, like moving up too. But this Earth has no choice but to move up. I mean, that's the ascension pathway for those that are on, you know, want to experience that.
Does trauma with the individual hold souls back here instead of not helping Earth evolve?
Well, okay, this is how I've been taught about it through the higher self, is that everyone has trauma, but those are the doorways into the magic. So they're like opportunities, and you place them in your life at different junctures as an opportunity. So you're supposed to go in that way. And it's almost like forcing you, like you have to go in to learn. But this is how we evolve, because if you think about negativity, it serves such a great purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't learn, we wouldn't try to do any better if we didn't have negativity as that driving factor.
And Sarah, last week we had a guest on who said exactly the same thing. And Kelly and I talk about that trauma is an opportunity, as traumatic as it is a lesson. It's an opportunity to grow by how you handle that. So that's exactly in alignment for our previous guest we had on. And Kelly, you said that often.
I say that all the time, but yeah. I've heard you say that it's our responsibility to be able to work on our traumas and work on ourselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, if we don't, then we end up usually repeating the lesson. It's just like when you have a relationship and you think to yourself, they're so terrible, I'm just going to leave that relationship. And then you meet the same person, right, because you haven't learned the lesson yet. But it's all like,
yeah.
Yes.
It's all lesson. And the ascension, according to like a lot of higher selves, is a choice of whether you want to continue working on your fears or try to choose love more. You know, it's like the two, the more you fall into the fear, the more you like get into it and feel more like stuck in the fear. But when you're choosing love or choosing to learn and choosing to move past the fear is when you're more in alignment, so to speak, with the ascension pathway. But I mean, there's no doing this wrong. You know, you can't do life wrong.
I'm curious, what do they feel is our future for humanity?
Oh, wow. So this is the most recent information that has been coming through in my sessions. And what's happening is everyone has their own timeline right now based on what they believe. So like my future might be totally different than yours based on what I believe. But as we move into in time a little bit, we end up into what the higher self calls the nexus point, where all these different timelines are merging into one for a little bit, and then they splinter out into three. So this is what I've been hearing. So right now, everybody has their own timeline until we hit a nexus point. And the nexus point could be so many different things. It might be beautiful. It might be, you know, more scary for other people, but it just merges the timelines. It could be many different things. Some people say that there's a potential that if the tail of the comet goes in front of the sun, it will trigger like a solar flash, and then that will dismantle the veil. This is like a potential. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but a potential will trigger like a solar event. And if the veil gets dismantled, then we'll be able to see in all the dimensions at once and really see what is all around us, because the veil keeps us only seeing one thing, what we can perceive. So this will be pretty shocking, and it will help merge all the timelines into the three. So the three timelines, according to the higher selves, are the highest timeline, which just seems so amazing. So like we clean up our oceans and we teach our children consciousness, and we really evolve spiritually, and we use telepathy, and it's just, you know, I think most people working on themselves are basically headed in that direction anyway. We take in lighter things, like lighter food, lighter experiences. We think about things in a lighter way, and we move up in the ascension timeline. The middle timeline seems to go down the same trajectory as another future version of humanity, the gray extraterrestrials, where we eventually lose our planet because we think that we should breed out our emotions. So we think that it's better to not feel sad. It's not better to not feel trauma. And eventually we go too far with our technology and lose the planet and have to do this cycle again. And then the lower timeline ends right at the nexus point, is what I've been hearing. So, those are the 3 timelines. But what's really fascinating is it seems like there are many different light workers that are strategically placed in the middle timeline, because they shift the perspective. Because all it is a perspective shift. They shift the perspective of the people in the middle timeline and push them up to the higher timeline, because it's really, it's all an internal shift in perspective. Just like if you are taking in less dense things, then you become lighter, basically.
And we've heard before, Sarah, again, I think a guest, Kelly, last week or week before, said it's all about perspectives. It's just everyone has a perspective, and that's what it's about. Everyone's perspectives.
I just decided to, share what your other guest was saying. No, I'm just kidding.
You're pretty in tune, let me tell you. Wow. When is your birthday? When is your birthday?
June 8th.
Okay, Gemini. Okay. Wow. Kelly, what star system?
Well,
she was reading me earlier. Actually.
I was doing a little reading for her earlier. I would say some high frequency. I work with star children, star seeds all the time, and I think it's fascinating when I have somebody. I'm doing a session with somebody, and I knew immediately they're not from around here, and I don't mean Wisconsin. And I would say, we'd have to talk about that. I'd have to ask you a certain amount of questions, but I mean, you definitely have that energy, though. I can see it from Atlantis, but I can also go to Lemuria too with you. But for maybe one of the Palladians, I'm not sure. What color are your eyes? Because that usually gives.
Oh, that's so funny. I always talk about that.
Yeah, the eyes tell me everything I need to know.
Me too. Mine are brown. What I've noticed from a lot of my clients under hypnosis is that when you're looking from your eyes into another person's eyes, you're actually transmitting the blueprint of your soul. So all the rings around your iris are the blueprint of your souls. And so it's almost like color therapy, and it's almost like you're projecting information into their eyes.
Makes so much sense.
What it does, and whenever I see brown eyes like that, I always think think of I'm from Arcturian. I'm Arcturus, and I'm thinking that you might be Arcturian. I'm not sure. There's something like that.
A lot of people say that.
With you? Yeah.
But I've noticed that a lot of times when people have brown eyes, that they're projecting information kind of about the earth or about ancient wisdom. And a lot of people consider people with brown eyes, or the higher selves consider them old souls. But then like blue eyes seem to be projecting ancient information. They seem to be ancient beings that have already kind of ascended a different realm. So they come to teach us things here.
Yep. I totally agree with that.
The color of the eyes and blood types, I always thought that they were just, genetic, but then I've come to understand that they actually mean something.
I think everything means something. There are clues, and there are no accidents.
I know.
I just love that. I mean, you could write a book on the eyes.
Yes.
And the transmission of information from the eyes. And I totally agree. And I thank you, because I'm 65 years old and I had never thought of it that way. And I should have. But, in my workshops, I start off with everyone staring in different people's eyes, because the eyes is the mirror of the soul. So I love that you're talking about transmission of the soul. I think it makes so much sense. Really
I want to go to one of your workshops. When's your workshop?
I want to go to one of your workshops.
Okay, deal.
When do you do your workshops, sweetheart? How often?
About every 3 months.
And are they all over the United States or Europe or?
No. Well, I do have one coming up in Germany in October, but mostly I'm doing a lot of them in Malvern, Pennsylvania right now, and the Keys.
Really?
Keys.
Okay.
I'll do
it in October. Let's do one in October in Pennsylvania. We can do a double workshop.
That would be amazing. I'm sure everyone would love that.
Yeah. I mean, I would just be sitting there with a pen and pad writing everything down.
I think it would be me doing that. It was funny because I was telling my friends that, you know, you guys wanted to ask me questions, but I would like ask you 1,000 questions. What is it like? How is it to be psychic?
You have so much knowledge and so much information. Yeah. And this is your first book, right?
My first book was the Atlantis book. And then because it was so exciting to learn so much, I just kept going. And I, you know, after each book, I always would worry that maybe nothing would come to me. And then it would just automatically come. And I never had to seek out the information.
Sarah, you're well taken care of, honey. You're well. The information that is so valuable that the spirit, the highest of beings, would be with you, supporting you all the way. And they'll make things happen because the information is so important. I really think you should do a book about the eyes. All
right.
The transmission of the eyes. And not only the eyes, but perhaps other parts that you'll find the blood type or the hair. Because I agree with Kelly, it's everything. It's all something.
Even your freckles, like when they're in certain formations, they mean something. And I've noticed that, like when people have a triangle shape of like their freckles, it seems to signify that they're part of like a galactic, what's it called, like a galactic association where they're actually doing something in a different realm right now, with part of like protecting us. So it's really interesting. And sometimes people get like a symbol that just shows up on their body and it all means something. Even like three freckles in a row or 3 little marks in a row often signifies that you come from like the Orion star system, or you have like ties there. It's really interesting. They're all clues.
So true. I've had clients that have exactly what you're describing. It's fascinating.
It is. It's so fascinating. So it's like we can read ourselves and find out the clues and go deeper into ourselves.
If people would only pay attention to those kind of things, you know.
No, I think now that they have to learn it, then now that you can teach them this, because before no one would teach this. Let me ask a couple of questions, Sarah. How far in advance are you booked up for your sessions? And what is a session like? An hour and a half?
See, they're longer. They're about 4 to 5 hours, and I don't have anything because as soon as I put anything available, it's gone. And I don't know how people know. Like I don't know how they know that I have a session available, but I don't have anything. I usually try to open it after 2 years, and then I'll open. What about you, James? What's your availability like?
I don't do private readings anymore. I like to teach. So I'm teaching, I'm doing demonstrations, at different places. And that's what I do now. Well, that's what I do at different venues. Or workshops. I love doing workshops. Maybe we'll do one in Pennsylvania in October.
Yeah, do one with me in Pennsylvania. I love you know what I love so much about it is you meet these people and you can see them transform their lives. I love it. So rewarding. Isn't
it interesting, Sarah, that the words that you're using, let's say in a workshop experience, and you're bringing through, you can see, I'm sure you can see auras you feel auras, how it changes them with the words that you use will resonate and change the vibration so much with them. And then the exercises, at the end of the workshop, I mean, my biggest joy is seeing them before we start and then at the very end and how they really have changed. And you can see it, you can sense it, and they can feel it. And that to me is fantastic. I'm sure you're the same way.
I love it. Yeah, I'm the same way. I love it. It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
When's your next workshop?
It'll be in Pennsylvania in October. I don't have it down, but I'm sure there'll be one in October in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a bunch of some dates in New Jersey, and the 10th and the 16th. And I thought I would love to have something to fill. This happened this morning. True story. I would love to have something to fill, like a workshop between the 10th and the 16th. So where can I go to do that? So
I know where you can go.
Exactly. That'd be great. Let's do it. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, perfect.
That's perfect. And let me ask you this, because Dolores Cannon is a person that I hold so highly. I met Dolores in Long Beach, California. She was doing a workshop, and I was just mesmerized. And I don't get that way very easily, but every single word that came out of her mouth, pure wisdom. And I was just so enamored of this person. And she was just so incredible. When did you start did you work with her personally or go to her workshops? And tell us what you use from Dolores in your take on it.
So what was really interesting is I started after she passed, so I didn't get to meet her in person. But I do feel like I have a relationship with her because she has come to me. It was almost impossible for me not to know it was her because it was weird. A couple times right before I was supposed to see her daughter, as I'm waking up in the morning, she would reach and wake me up right before my alarm and say, okay, let's get going. And it just felt nice to me to know that I felt that she was supporting me. And I do feel she gets really excited when I'm on to a new subject. Like, I feel like she's learning too, which is weird because doesn't she know everything over there? But I feel like she's excited about this.
Well, I think she's excited that you're the instrument that she can help to use her information, download it to you, and you mix it with what you know, what you come back with, and it goes out with new information, with combining the two. And I'm sure she loves you. I'm sure she loves the instrument you are, and the information you're sharing. That information. I know Dolores would not like her information just to go away. She wants to continue on and build up, and you're doing that. You're honoring that, which is fantastic.
Oh, that's amazing.
And continuing her work is so important. And as James said, putting your own take on her work.
Well, I mean, it's so needed right now. I feel like as we're moving towards this part of our evolution where we're returning to the ancient ways, a lot of us don't know what are the ancient ways. I mean, what's all this hidden history, but it's easy for me to find the hidden history because it's in everyone. It's in our subconscious memories. So I'm just researching our subconscious memories to uncover all this ancient history and share it with people because people need it desperately. They really want to know, not only our history, but
would you also say it's the cellular makeup as well?
Oh my gosh. Yes, definitely. It's, what's really fascinating is sometimes, as you know, when you hear information, it could start changing your DNA and you start remembering your abilities. So people sometimes can regain parts that they thought they didn't have just by hearing about it and stuff like that.
Wow. Fascinating. Well, Sarah, thank you for sharing your lovely information. And how do people get in touch with you?
Well, you can go to my website, theholistichehypnotist.com, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I post on YouTube some of my actual clients that allow me to share their session, which is really fascinating. And I feel like we're just all in this together, so we're all learning. And it helps sometimes to hear other people's sessions and what they've uncovered and what they're working on, because then you feel less alone and you realize that we're all work in progress.
So you refer to yourself as a holistic hypnotist. Is that what you label yourself?
Holistic hypnotist. Mm-hmm.
I don't like that name for you.
Well,
I want to come up with something that really relates to you. You're such a wise soul with such great information that I think it could be even. I'll think about something. But
he's really good.
I'm ready for it.
You know what I
Got my notepad.
I agree.
No, but I really love your work and because I think you're so much deeper than that, and I think that you're a hypnotist. I don't know. To me, it's something different. Regressionist. There's something other word there that you could use that really describes what you do better, more accurately. I think you're so much more than that is what I'm trying to get at, and we'll find the right name.
Well, I love that you're saying that because I was just talking to someone about changing that name.
Yeah, it's not your vibration. It's just a different. You know what I mean, Kelly? It's kind of like
I do. You'll find he's great at this.
I'm great at
He'll
this.
find
you decide.
Yeah, I'll help you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
And Sarah, I'll get in contact with you about the workshop. Okay.
Oh, I would love that. It would be so much fun. Yeah, and maybe you would let me give you a regression, James.
I'd be honored. Wow. Thank you. I'd be honored. Wow. I would love that. Well, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, Sarah. It was great to have you on tonight. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, James.
Everybody. Thanks, Renee. Sarah, stay on. We'll talk to you afterwards. Okay.